welcome to today's edition of CovInspiration with Dayo Israel. Today we're going to have an interesting session. You know, they say that the glory of the youth is in their strength. Today I have two people who spent their youth defending the integrity of Nigeria. They had all the energy. Well, the elders, the Enauros, and the Achiwajubola Ahmed Tinubu were doing their part in the high rooms and the big table. These were the guys who were also spending their time, who were moving and shaking people, mobilizing students, mobilizing youth. In the prime of their youth, they fought for the interests of this country. They didn't have the luxury of Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, of showing pictures or spending time with frivolous stuff. They spent their time striking for the sake of our democracy. They paid a lot of prizes. And it wasn't just them. A lot of other young people like them, the Omoyele Sowores of this world, the Segun Mayegos of this world, you know, many of the student leaders that they're going to mention to us today. And we're going to be discussing some of the things that happened. What was the beginning of the struggle like? What happened in June 12? What is the revalidation? What happened during the revalidation process of democracy and restoration of democracy during the Abacha days? They're going to discuss about the transmutation of Abacha or the planned transmutation of Abacha from a military government to a civilian president and how they resisted. These men that are on the show today, they went on strike. They were arrested. They were detained. Some of them were jailed just because they wanted to see Nigeria great. Please welcome with me on the show today, the popular canary all the way from London, United Kingdom, Kayode Ogundamisi, and also my mom, the giant veteran Che, Wale Okunniyi from Lagos, Nigeria. Egbon, it's good to see all of you. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. We are fine. I'm keeping well.
Thank you, Dayo, for inviting me. We're good here. We're keeping ourselves safe.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we're all alive to the glory of God and coronavirus is not getting to us. Let's hit the point straight because of the patience of people at home. We had Dr. I call him Doctor a lot, Dr. Femi Falana yesterday. It was a heated conversation, but I've said to people today is going to be more. So anybody, if you want to learn about the history of what happened, please go and get all your loved ones to hear. Let's hit straight into the whole conversation. I don't want to entertain any side talk today. I want to eat on the net. What was the beginning of the pro-democracy struggle? What happened at the beginning? Take us to the beginning, and then we can navigate to the issues of revalidation. Let me start with Mr. Wale Okunniyi.
Thank you very much, Dayo Israel. I think this is a very good, significant session we are having. And it will help the younger generation and the future leaders of this country to understand the terrain that brought us to where we are today. The beginning of the pro-democracy struggle was at a point that we started the campaign for democracy. We had first started with CDHI to try to deal with human rights issues foisted by ruthless military government under Babangida. That was a precursor to campaign for democracy. But afterward, we realized that the Babangida transition, very brilliant, very thorough, profound process, was leading nowhere. Was actually leading nowhere. It was just a rigmarole. And therefore, our leaders and some of us who were bothered came together to start the campaign for democracy. What initially started was the National Consultative Forum, in which we tried to, that was under the leadership of Alawo Akabashorun, of blessed memory, who initiated a National Consultative Forum to try and bring all stakeholders together to try and hold a sovereign national conference. But that was stopped by the Babangida regime because we realized that we had to take this thing into our hands. We won't allow Babangida to just keep going and going nowhere. And therefore, we needed to intervene so that we can have democratic rule, so that we can even restructure in a very resourceful way Nigeria. So we started with National Consultative Forum. After after that was aborted, the meeting was aborted. It was supposed to have held at the National Theatre. It was aborted because loads of military men came in and tear gas and stopped that meeting. So it was afterward that we started the initiative to bring a campaign for democracy. That we need to campaign. We need human rights aside with CDHR, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. But now the focal point should be democracy, restoration of democratic rule. So the CD was formed to lead that. That was the beginning of the struggle for pro-democracy, for democracy restoration.
Let me go to Mr. Ogundamisi. Mr. Ogundamisi, I want you to help us put it into perspective. A lot of people may not understand why you were agitating for the pro-democracy rule. What was the experience under the military? Why did you want the military out? For example, we heard that it was under Gowon that they built the Third Mainland Bridge. To do that today would be inflated budget, would be having to pass a National Assembly and all of that. Some of the people who are watching or who will watch this video in the future may not have an understanding of what military rule actually was about and why you wanted them out. Can you please explain to us?
Thank you. Before going there, I just want to go a little bit. I think Wale started from the pro-democracy movement, CD, and what have you. But actually, the Nigerian Students Movement, the National Association of Nigerian Students, were the cornerstone of Nigeria's pro-democracy movement. The democracy that we enjoy today would not have been possible if not for the consciousness of Nigerian students across the country. Those were the days when you don't have internet, you don't have telephones, but the students' movement were able to sort of mobilize across the country in Sokoto, in Kano, in Lagos, Ogun, Port Harcourt, Rivers. There was this issue of tribalism wasn't in the students' movement. So in Zaria, you had people like Azana Garba, you had Abdurrahman Black, you had Nasiru Kura in Kano, you had Shuko, what's his name now? Some of our comrades in the East. So people were able to mobilize across. So the pro-democracy movement, the bedrock of the pro-democracy movement started from the students' movement. The Bekor and some Kuti, Ganifa Weimis of this world, Femi Falana, were symbols. The people who actually did the dirty work, as you would say, were the students, the young people, the young students across the country, liaising with the young unemployed on the street. So it wasn't really the Wale Soyinkas that you see on TV that were doing the distribution of leaflets. So credit should go to those thousands of unknown young men and women across Nigeria who fought for democracy, and I think credit should go to them. Back to your question, under the military, it was. I must confess there were quite a lot of progress in terms of infrastructure. A military man could just come into Lagos and say, I want to build 10-story building here. It's just the word of mouth. He doesn't need to go through any National Assembly. They just allocate money, they get it done. But that was not enough because freedom was more important for the Nigerian people. The Nigerian people wanted to have a say in their affairs. They wanted to be able to vote people into office that would represent them. And across the globe, military regime was becoming a thing of the past. Democracy was getting was getting entrenched in Ghana. and some other parts of Africa. So it was just a matter of time that Nigerians and the pro-democracy movement just felt there was a need to have a civilian rule. Under the military, it was quite tough for Nigerians. You could not voice out anything without having repercussions. Journalists were killed. I know people would have heard of Delegiwa, who was bombed. It was blown up, through a parcel bomb. I saw my own boss, even after leaving school and started working. My own boss, Dr. Moshola, I was his personal assistant. He was blown up just for allegedly supporting the pro-democracy movement. So they planted a bomb in his car, and he paid the supreme price. So it's not like today where you could say Buhari is mad, is Jubril, and get away with it. In those days, if you say Babangida, if you say Babangida is mad, you will see his boys coming after you almost 24 hours later. And in Abuja, then, if people could remember, under the Abacha regime, you had the famous Major Mustafa and his killer squad, who were responsible for the death of allegedly of Kudirat Abiola and a lot of other people. So it was a horrible period.
And in this period, what was the climax? What led to you guys saying enough is enough? What was there, for example, if you look at the Arab Spring, it was a man setting himself on fire that led to everybody saying enough is enough. We can't take this anymore. Was there anything?
Well, I think for me,
can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think for me, I will speak for myself. I think for me, it was just a privilege. I was actually quite amazed. A lot of us were influenced by people. For me, my first influence was from staying in Lagos, very not far from Pepple Street. I was living in 13 Obafemi Awolowo Way. So I would go to the shrine most of the time, listen to Fela. Before Fela would play any music at the shrine, he would speak about the state of the nation. So you have those kind of impact where you sneak away from home and you go to the shrine, you listen to Fela. And Fela had a huge influence in raising the consciousness of a lot of young people. And I think the protest, as a very young man, the protest led by Segun Okeowo, the former National Union of Nigerian Students, when they moved across Lagos, the fact that they could move and make an impact. I think by the time some of us now started going into university, started getting some sort of Marxist-Leninist trainings, it was a duty. It was more like you feel excited to do this, that you're actually contributing to the development of your country. Wale could attest to the fact that a lot of us had ideological training. You don't just wake up and jump on the street. It's a collective effort. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scene amongst comrades across the country. So if you're elected NANS president, you're just a symbol. The people doing the work are a lot of stratas of people who like working behind the scenes. So you just take the credit, but they do a lot of the work. So it's a privilege. You see the injustice in society and you just feel there's a duty to intervene.
Mr. Okunniyi, let me come to you. There was now an agitation, which was the agitation for Babangida to go. Babangida must go. What led to that agitation for crying that Babangida must go?
Thank you very much. I had initially made allusions to that. I said to you in clear terms that with our consciousness, as a matter of fact, like Kayode said, the history of Nigerian pro-democracy struggle at that time was the history and consciousness of the student movement of Nigeria. I will stop at that. I made allusion earlier to say that we realized, having reviewed the situation militarily, we saw a lot of human rights abuses, heavy ones. People hunted into detention, people molested, people killed, etc. And we were compiling lists under the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights to say And having compiled those lists of abuses, military ruthlessness, we realize again that Babangida had fostered a transition program that was leading nowhere. We saw in clear terms, spending almost 7-8 years, and then, canceling at the tail end of any process or any program, he will get it stalled or cancel it. So we decided, having reviewed that, to come together to say, look, this guy is not going to go. And the military rule was already unpopular all over the world, that except we force this guy out, except we pressure him formidably as a group, except we do something that can shake this country, we will perpetually be under military rule. That we needed to fight for a democratic rule, a civilian democratic rule, where we can have a lot of freedom and our views can count in the running of our country, and we can own by that dictum. We can own our country through the democratic rule. So that was what actually led to Babangida must go. Although we had some mistakes here and there, but we knew or we realized.
When you say mistakes, we have to learn from everything.
Yes.
Give us one, sir. What were some of the mistakes that happened?
Babangida was okay. Let me take it from here. 92. After some anti-SAP protest, which they turned to riot. You found out that because anti-SAP, we're against an economic policy that will enslave Nigeria. And so the Nigerian student movement, just like he said, like Kayode said, was at the pivot of that, to say we do not want such economic, and that we were going to do something about it. Although we had some sort of support and counsel and advice from some of our people outside the campus and from some lecturers, but it was essentially a student movement struggle. And after such, you find that the military will run into your protest and shoot live ammunition, and some students were killed, some were rusticated for no just cause, for fighting a national cause. And then you find Chief Gani arrested, Baba Mojola arrested, Femi Falana arrested, for students. So we thought that this guy, and he was ready to continue to arrest. You find people like Benga Olawepo, arrested under Decree 2, and detained in solitary cell. All kind of maltreatment, all kind of torture. So there was no way we could allow that to continue, knowing fully well that Babangida's transition, to the best of our own realization, was heading nowhere. So all those what we counted as mistakes, and the economic policy was damaging. We're going to pauperize and impoverish Nigerians. So we discovered all this and then said, well, we can't, if we allow this, we are going to be perpetual slaves in our country. So we must fight for freedom, we must fight for economic prosperity of all Nigerians. And therefore, we must terminate military rule. So that was what started that. And we had to come together as a group, teaming up with our comrades outside, our student arm. Just like Kayode said, we were the foot soldier, we were the field commander. When you hear veteran chief, people call me veteran chief. We were on the field commanding. I was in Lagos. I was
going to ask, where did veteran chief come from?
Yes, I was in Lagos. I was on the field. Committed, like Kayode said, passionate, committed, ready to die. Because Gani Fahimi said that if we die for this cause, it's a noble death. So I already signed that it may just be. So I was ready to do anything, midnight, to go and do gravity on the Ikorodu road, writing Babang IBB must go. Dead of the night with people like Otsagi or Bayuana, leading at that level. So we're doing all that, you know, because we feel that the only way is to increase consciousness and awareness and sensitization of Nigerians so that it won't be only us. And Nigerians bought into that. So we did that. I guess that from Lagos, Kayode had moved to Jos, where he was like a field marcher on the, you know, in great struggle. You know, when we go to him, and you see across board, we were moving. People like us. I remember '92 when we had the CD convention. We went to him. He was there. When we entered into there, it was clear that he was in command of the students. And I remember that after the session that we had addressing students, the state security operatives were looking for us. He just took me, this guy, and said, "Let's go." We went on the ground. I wouldn't discuss that on national TV. Between him and that, we knew what happened. That was the risk. That was the sacrifice. It was a whole lot of sacrifice. But we had to do that because we believe in it. We were conscious. We were grounded. We were ready to face anything for the liberation.
Let me come to Mr. Ogundamisi. I must also say, please, if for any reason the internet goes off on my side, just keep talking. The viewers at home can see you. So if for any reason you can't see me, just keep going. Now, when I hear all these things that you're saying, I am baffled at what the National Assembly of Nigerian State has become. Everybody is now about going to endorse a politician, going to buy a Jeep, having private plate numbers, now Swan, now Stu. Everybody has different factions, and it's all about money and endorsement.
Yeah, well,
please, Mr. Ogundamisi.
Well, Dayo, I think you asked one of the most important questions, which is what were the mistakes made by our generation? And I think now we have an opportunity to look back and you can check what mistakes that were made. I think we were committed, no doubt. We were courageous and fearless, no doubt. Even to the point of we were suicidal. Let me put it that way for our country. And we had a lot of ideological training. You could not become a comrade, quote and unquote, if you have not read thorough Marxist-Leninist documents, or if you have not read about revolutions across the world. But what we failed to do was to situate our own struggle within our own geopolitical and cultural settings. So, for example, we will look at Bolshevik revolution in Russia. We will say the Bolsheviks did this and they took over, and we want to do that. Without realizing that our situations are quite different from these countries that we are trying to copy, you know. So a lot of us ended up becoming sloganeers, you know. IBB must go. Today, revolution now, you know, those kind of things. But we were good agitators, but we were not prepared. We didn't transit. We didn't prepare ourselves to transit from agitators into, when power becomes available, into political leaders or into leaders of the society. So we ended up creating power on the streets, and opportunists who were visionaries in their own times just picked up power. And we continue to become agitators right from our students' movement days up till today. Quite a number of our people are still agitators. And then, because the reality is, if bad people are not involved, if good people are not involved in politics, bad people are going to occupy that political space, you know. So after we won the right to have a democratic process, our counterparts who were across the world came back home. Bola Tinubu came back from the diaspora. He became a governor in Lagos State. The Baba Adesanyas determined who become governors in different parts of the Southwest, in other regions. So our generations did not really prepare for leadership. You know, we created an atmosphere. I think that is one of the major mistakes that we made. And I think it also was as a result of our principled stance during the pro-democracy movement. Wale will remember that one of the first cardinal of the National Association of Nigerian Students was that we were not going to take part in the transition program.
I was going to hold you on that.
Yeah. So
why did you guys get involved in 1999 even?
So because we felt, and it was a correct position, we felt that the issue about the country was that there was a need for a national conference, that we recognized that we are going to have this problem of ethnicity if we don't have a people's constitution, a constitution that will be prepared by the Nigerian people, because the constitution that we have up to today is what I would call a jackboot constitution. It was provided to us by just military men and politicians appointed by the military to just write something in place, and that is the constitution that we have to today. So it didn't talk about land ownership for the people of Nigeria. It didn't talk about equality. It didn't talk about the rights of Nigerians to live, the rights of this different ethnic nationality at resource control. So we are paying for it till today. So I am quite clear that mistake, this generation, sadly, are also making the same mistake. Everybody is just agitating. Nobody is preparing to themselves for the position, for leadership position. The few ones that were smart amongst us, Tokunbo Afikuyomi, Okoyemi Bamidele, few of them went into politics. Even Gbenga Olawepo, they went into politics, but they became isolated. It's just probably like 5 people amongst 100. They can't make any change. So my message to young generation is, as you agitate, prepare yourself for leadership. Because a lot of us in our generation are probably 55 and above, some in just clocking 50. Our counterparts in other parts of West Africa, people I had meetings with in Libya, in Burkina Faso, they became leaders in their country. People who were in the students' movement, West African Students' Union, they became vice presidents in Ghana, they became legislators, they determined the face of their country in Burkina Faso. So I think we must learn, and the young generations must learn from the mistakes of the older generation. And I think another thing is that heroism, crediting the struggle, the collective struggle of the people to one man, it's ridiculous, for so long as you continue to do that, they will just cut off that one man, and they stay in office. So people, rather than build movements, are not building movements. The same heroism, we keep making the mistake. But
let me hold you on that.
Yeah.
Let me hold you on that. Can you explain that? It seems like there's a consensus between you and Okunniyi on the whole issue about credit. Can you let us in on that?
I'll let Wale start on that, then I can because I've not seen Wale in years.
Because you see, the heroism, individualism, egoism, they are the same pattern, where you have an individual wanting to be just hero and carried away by being praised and celebrated, and that I am doing it, and then it's not making any substantial impact on the society or political positioning of a progressive movement or the destiny of the country. You just see sometimes what I call infantility or infantile radicalism, and then you have people and it's still up to now. And therefore,
so was this during the struggle or post the struggle?
No. What he is saying is that even now, or what some of those are the mistakes now, after we exited military rule to democratic rule. But I like to say also that, you see, the struggle for democracy itself. Hello?
Hello? Yeah, go ahead, Wale.
I can hear you.
Okay. The struggle for democracy itself got to a point that there were divisions. I mean, at the tail end, where some of us, I can say myself, somebody like Chima Ubani, a host of traders in UAG and co, felt that Bamidele Aturu felt that we needed to go into the transition program. That that no matter how flawed, yes, though in the student movement we said we're not going to participate in transfer program. But what we had at that time, since the military had refused our demands, one, the demand is sovereign national government of national unity. Two, sovereign national conference. And three, a transition program. That was the demand. And you see, the military under Abdulsalam Abubakar, after Abacha regime has been terminated, you see, refused those demands. They only gave us transition program without a document. So I must agree with people like Chief Enaoro, and I think Professor Soyinka, Gani-Fahimi, including Falana, who said that without a people's concern, what are you going to do in this transition program? But at that time, to some of us, and that was the undoing of this democracy, really, because our division at that time, our division of not agreeing to go as a bloc to seize power, even if it is for us to facilitate a people's national conference or a sovereign national conference, you know, affected everything afterward. People like Olisa Agbakoba also won, because I remember that there was a meeting at the, I was not there though, but I was informed, at the Muritala Mohammed International with Thabo Mbeki, who came in to discuss with some of the Gani, Falana, Olisa Agbakoba, and Chima Obani. I think Chima was there. And he made a plea. He said, you guys have won this democracy. He said, learn from us. Go into this. Go into it. Take power first. You can then facilitate the kind of country you want through a sovereign national conference. You would have been in charge. But our people said no. Because in any case, there was so much mistrust of the military because of what Babangida Abacha had done. So nobody was ready to believe, even Abdulsalam Abubakar, who said that he was just going to do a very short transition program, and is not ready to stay for so long, and that when we get to power, we should facilitate a sovereign national conference or a people's constitution. They were not ready to believe. So the greatest mistake we made was not to have gone into that transition tactically.
Well, and then the irony of it was that those who were telling us not to take part in the transition program, you know, stylishly excluded us from the negotiation with the military. And when they finished negotiation, Papa Adesonya's daughter became a minister, Biniza Babatokpe became a minister, even with due respect, you know, is my hero. Wale Soyinka's family members were elected into government, you know, and we were just there. We are Marxists. We cannot take part. You know, we don't want the military.
Yeah, I get your point. I get that point. Dayo, I get that point, really. You see, for Adesonya, Chifayo Adebanjo, and those of them in Afenifere, Comrade Olaoni of blessed memory, Baba Omodola, they had this idea of, let us send away the military, take power, we will facilitate what we want. But our leader, the leader of Nadeco, who was Chief Enauro, was abroad. And with some of our forces here, like Chief Gani-Fahimi, who at the last JACOM meeting that I attended, raised courses on whoever we go and join that transition program. The two sides were right in a way, but tactically, just like I said, and which Kayode has alluded to, is that what we needed to have done at that time, and as advised by Abdulsalam Abubakar, was to go and block, en masse, and overwhelm that process, and get our people into power, into decisive power position, and then facilitate a sovereign, not what Obasanjo did later, which was an appointive national conference, which made us to now have PRONACO. you know, because we later started Pronaco to an alternative to what Obasanjo did. But that was a mistake. That was a clear mistake, and that is why we are where we are today. Because the forces that want this democracy refuse to participate in that transform because of mistrust. And those forces were right, really, because we couldn't trust military. But it has shown, event have proved to us that that was an error. I was talking to Barrister Falano the other day, and I made allusions to that. That why are we still struggling? Why are we still struggling to make Nigeria? Why are we still struggling? We would have done that in Nigeria, but nobody could take glory, nobody could take blame. Kayode said, and he was, I think he's right, that some people, you know, became opportunistic. Their family members, though even Baba Adesanya did not, in fairness, opposed his daughter appointment. I was not sure whether Professor Soyinka was aware of the appointment of his daughter, I think Morimi. But you see, the military and the they played the first one on us. They played the first one, the reactionary political forces who took power, they played the first one, get some tokenism among us, neutralize the process, rather than have a sovereign national conference, had what you call an appointive conference, which led to nowhere under Obasanjo. And so today we are in the Rigma road, and the political space have become so strong, so that we can't even get in, except we are very formidable enough to do, you know, to undo what they have done.
I want to hear of Mr. Ogundamisi's experience in Jos you alluded to, and some of the other escapades that you guys had to go through as young people in the process. Mr. Ogundamisi, can you tell us a bit about?
Well, I think there are I think just in my many years of activism, I think Jos I have very fond memories of Jos and Jos sites. I think we had the advantage. There were three strategic geopolitical locations for the struggle. Jos was one. Lagos was very important. You know, it was key. It was Ad Avenue Road into the southeast, but we were lucky to have the Innocent Shukumas of this world and others there. You know, but I think Jos, the advantage of Jos was that we were very committed to collective decisions. That was what made it unique for UniJos activists. We were committed to collective decisions. We never took any actions without a collective agreement of all the comrades across the country. So, for example, if Nance gives an ultimatum that in 7 days we are going to make the country ungovernable, Jos will make sure that at least Jos, Bauchi, and its environment become ungovernable. So we were committed to collective decisions. There were no, I was just lucky, let me put it this way, as Sankara to be the symbol of the struggle in Jos. So everybody would say Sankara, but it wasn't me. There were a lot of people behind me. So I was just a symbol. You know, the cadres, very committed cadres, Kashim Ibrahim, Kemi Afolayan, Benjamin Okonofwa, you know, young men and women, Mahmoud Abdullah Aminu, who later became, whom I nominated for Nance position, Nance president, you know, so you just become lucky. We were quite different from other comrades in other parts of the country, where in some places, today somebody will be showing you a video of himself and MKO, and they are the one that brought change, you know, not acknowledging that there were people. Those people were more important. In any struggle, in any democratic struggle, it is not the man that is on TV that is important, because that man on TV is not the one going to distribute leaflets, going to, if Nadeko says we're going to make a bus disappear on Ikorodu Road, it is not that man on TV that is doing it. There are sons and daughters of poor people, the nameless heroes, who do it. So I cannot claim credit. I was just fortunate, I was just carrying out the actions of comrades who would say, Sankara, this is what we're going to do at this point, and you are the symbol at that particular point. And that is where we were very successful in Jos. Then Wale, Okunniyi, Innocent Shukuma, people were gravitating towards Jos because we were taking orders and instructions from, and the difference between the students' movement then and now is that then we don't just go for votes. There is what we call agreeing to disagree. So we will exhaust the conversation, and superior argument will carry the day. And because the quality of the arguments and the quality of the debates were so strong, whenever we decided to go this way, we are always successful in our position. When we told Alex Akinyele that we were going to, and Abacha and his boss, that we were going to make the country comfortable, they couldn't believe that we were able to do it. But we were able to hold meetings. They banned movement, but we were holding meetings in Sokoto, in a mosque in Sokoto. NAS will rent a bus and write a Christian, an Islamic listing on the bus, and we will move across the country. So the credit should go to the thousands of Nigerian students whom today you never hear their names. And that is the most painful part of the struggle for me. And that is why I keep telling younger people, if you allow yourself to be a follower, without scrutinizing your leadership, you will become a victim. When you die and nobody will remember you. So you must make sure that whenever you're going to commit yourself into anything, you question the genuinity of the conversation, the genuinity of the movement before you take part in such a movement.
Well, before I go to Che, everyone said things around how they would make cars disappear, bus disappear on the Ikorodu Road, how they would, have, inscriptions, Islamic inscriptions on buses and go around the country. What were some of the things that you did in Lasso?
Shay, before you answer, let me just put a note of caution that there are some things we cannot.
What were some of the things that your movement did in Lasso?
No, there are some things. There are some things we cannot discuss now because we might. They might still become necessary because Nigeria is not where we are, where we want it to be today. And the younger generations might still need to do those particular things. In any struggle, there is what we call legitimate resistance. Legitimate resistance is not you videoing yourself going to spray paint a bridge. There are undercover things you have to do to make your country better. And I hope Shay will be guided by my note of caution.
Thoroughly. Yeah, thoroughly. We had a wonderful time in Lagos and Southwest Axis. Very great time and great activities. You can imagine what we did. We had Lagos with the support and solidarity of people like Olusegun Mayegun, who was leading University of Lagos at that time. My own predecessor, Tony Olusoya, okay, with some of those that came with me from my movement, Bola Balogun, Eze Nwagu, all of them were there, and because these are people that were committed to principles. We're all committed to principles, and the principles of liberation or the pedagogy of liberation, revolution, and therefore we're able to put that in practical, application. For instance, in Lagos Axis, you can be rest assured that after consult with people like John Sylvester, you can be rest assured after consultation, and there is a need. It's only, it's even only the student movement that did most of these things at that time. Like I said, we were the ones moving. Nobody was moving. It was students that were actually engaging the Babangida's government. It was students that you protest that you see. People can complain on the media and the television, whatever, but was students that will come out to protest in practical terms and will be shot. In my case, for instance, I was to be shot with my predecessor, we're standing, but the bullet just straight to hit another student, and that student died eventually. You know, that was the kind of risk we went through. I was arrested and detained because, in any case, my forces on campus, because I had my own revolutionary force, that which I built, you know, because I knew that there were a lot of state incursion operatives. So we're seizing guns on campus, seizing guns, about 14 guns were seized under my leadership. We were seizing guns. At times I will release the gun and release him after our forces would have dealt with them. I wouldn't know why any security operative will come on campus. It's an intellectual community. It is where we use intellect. Yeah. We don't use force. We don't use it. And that's why when people say they look autism and they are fighting, I look at it. Are we living in another planet? A university from university, which means the universal knowledge, where you learn universal knowledge, where you go there, and it's only knowledge. It's only knowledge that take precedence here. It's only superior argument. So why would you come, the state, the government, the military government will send security operative to come with guns to want to kill and eliminate student leaders? So my guys were always on their alert, and before you know, they would have cited, because they were trained. They were seriously trained. They would have known that this one is an SSS operative. And before you know it, they would have seized his gun, they would have taken him, and they would have brought him to my office. So those were the things that happened at that time. And so it was a very risky thing. And when we are moving, we know that it could be caught anytime. I remember one of the episodes in Unilag. Some of my men went there to have some discussion. We call it movement discussion. I couldn't go. And we told John Sylvester, and they thought I wouldn't know. Maigo had been arrested then. Maigo Olusegun was as, but at some point in the dead of the night, they came in and busted that meeting and arrested John Sylvester. And they were saying, if you allow this one to go, you have done no work, because they know they have done their investigation about those who are very strong. And it's not as if we carry our whatever. We don't carry our, but we carry our brain and intellect. And we are principled. And we don't do what they do these days. We don't do that on campus. We are just ideological. We are just principled. We study like anything. As a matter of fact, when I was on campus, I was studying other literature than my own classwork. I would just come to the class, but I was studying other literature. I was reading, and I had to be reading, continuously, studying and self-educating myself about principle of how to liberate society, what to do, which he called Marxism or whatever, Leninism or whatever, and trying to see how we can apply that on campuses and among the students. So it was a whole lot of risk. A lot of after which, they came, arrested our guys. They came like combatants. About 700 people came to arrest me alone, and then they were jubilating. The day they arrested me, they were jubilating that as if you look at yourself as if you are a common criminal. They were jubilating. The whole police command in Lagos was, and so those are the kind of risk. Those are the kind of risk. You cannot even sleep again in your place. You don't even have a permanent place, just like I said of Kayode Ogundamisi. when we went to, because just one thing about Jos at that time, because of himself and the very vibrant cadres there at that time, is that the national movement was confident to bring program to Jos because of them, because they know that the students are conscious and it will be very difficult for us to be arrested or demobilized at that level. So that when you finish, I mean, I followed him the other day, and the way he was taking me from one hostel to the other to, you know that it's a whole lot of sacrifice.
Let me quickly go forward because of our time. I want to milk as much as I can. And like you said, both of you have not seen in over 10, 20 years or so. So getting both of you together here is a lot of history in one place. Can you tell us a bit about the revalidation, what happened during the validation period and then up to the restoration of democracy period, agitation period for restoration of democracy, and of course the agreement with Abacha? What happened? I heard that there was an understanding that Abacha should come, take over, and hand over to MKO, but that did not happen. What happened in that process?
So I can only speak from my own perspective, and actually what a lot of people would never know was that in Jos, we were very much opposed to Chief MKO Abiola. We termed him as an agent of imperialism. As a matter of fact, before he contested for the presidency of Nigeria, University of Jos gave Chief MKO Abiola an honorary award, doctorate award, and the students' union government, I was then the Secretary General, we mobilized and attempted to stop the award on the day he came to Jos. We were very angry because we felt with his history with ITT, we just felt he was one of them. He's actually close to the military. So we actually opposed Abiola as an individual, even though a night during that, when we waged that struggle, Abiola gave us 2 coastal buses, brand new, some people call it bribe. He gave the students' movement, because he called himself an honorary Josite, and he donated two buses to the Students' Union. So we were ideologically opposed to Chief MKO Abiola. But when election took place and he contested the election, he had national vote across the country. I'm speaking from the Jos perspective. And remember, Abiola had a very strong movement in Jos from the political class. We're talking about the Jos Collective and what have you, the Yaradua movement. We recognized this was a man who won an election square and fair, and there was no need for the government to cheat him of his victory. So we were all committed, despite our ideological opposition to him as a person. On the basis of principle, it became a duty to fight for the enthronement of his right to become the president and commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. So we just moved into the struggle to validate June 12th. So by the time the struggle started, 92, 93, I had gone to serve in Enugu. So my command post moved from Jos to Enugu. So I had to help comrades in Lagos. I think Innocent Shukuman, who is now the African head of West African head of Ford Foundation, was the contact point to be bringing materials into the Southeast so that we can mobilize people in the Southeast to support the validation of June 12, because it was quite difficult to get the Southeast to support the movement. So it was quite painful during that the annulment was made, and that led to the second stage of the political struggle, and actually led to my own personal transitioning from the students' movement up to the point where I was invited to join the Odua People's Congress, because then the perception was that Abiola was being denied in the Southwest because he's a Yoruba man, and a movement was formed around to protect him, based on that fact, even though at the national level, people were mobilizing across the country.
I think we lost Mr. Okunniyi for a minute. I'm sure he will join us. we're talking also about the transfer. I wanted to get his opinion, but I think we'll skip on there. So what had happened about Abacha trying to establish himself as, what led to the issue of Abacha wanting to become a civilian president? And what were some of the things that I think was...
I think Wale is back. I think Abacha, before Wale comes in,
Mr. Okunniyi, are you there?
Wale is back. I think Abacha, you know, Babangida, no matter what you have against Babangida, he was a very smart person. I think he had read Niccolo Machiavelli's book so much that look, I don't see. I'm a graduate of political science, you know. Babangida epitomized an individual that read Niccolo Machiavelli's book. Anybody that is watching should go and buy that book, The Prince, which says the lion and the fox theory. So Babangida was well loved with the way he handled Nigeria. You know, he was very cunning. He was very cunning like a fox, but also had the bravery of a lion. You know, he was the one that could execute his friend for planning a coup. And he's the same person that could smile to the country and introduce what's this program? Not just that program. Imagine he introduced MAMSA, you know, that touched the almost socialist programs. You know, MAMSA.
What's MAMSA? What's MAMSA?
MAMSA is the program that's what you have as your current national orientation agency, mass mobilization. You know, he introduced. There's a program he introduced whereby they will repair roads in the inner parts of the society. You know, so he had two sides to him, so it was difficult. So I think. And because of that, he was able to sustain himself in office. And he was smart enough to also ease out of government when he knew that they were coming after him and they were going to kill him. So Abacha saw that, and Abacha wanted to be a Machiavelli. But Abacha was not a Machiavellian. He was a dictator. He was born a dictator. His face was the face of a dictator. You know, he was brutal. He had his dark glasses, you know. So it was impossible for him to play that role that Babangida played, you know. So with Abacha, you know, he was going to die. He was rather going to die in office than hand over to a civilian government. You know, only God knows how it would have ended if he had not died a natural death in office.
Mr. Okunniyi, you wanted to contribute to that?
Yes, the Campaign for Democracy, we have discussed that, which is about restoring democracy. We have discussed that. The revalidation of the June 12th mandate of MK Abiola was the second phase. And it was a very, very serious phase because we embarked on protest from that year, that 1990, July 5, in Lagos, and it was bloody. It was very bloody. There were casualties on our side. Youth lost their life. So many things happened. There were destructions, and then our leaders were arrested afterward in the dead of the night. So we did not stop. We started having pockets of neighborhood protests in every neighborhood. So we turned it to neighborhood protests and started making neighborhoods. And then you see bonfire. You then see that people are stopped from going to in any case. When they see bonfire, they know that they have to return back to their homes. So it was a period where
I remember those days. We used to have lifts. You have leaves on the cars to even drive around.
Yes.
I said you had to put a leaf on your car when you were driving. I remember.
Yeah. Because we would have made barricades, then police will come with gun and then come to clear your barricade and blockade and so on and so forth. So it was a time that we went into practical struggle. And then when some of us became what you call the veteran chief, because we were perpetually on the from the university to the field.
To the field.
Now doing the struggle. When you hear veteran chief, means that experienced friend of the masses or the struggle of the people. From Che means friend of the people, and a veteran means experienced fighter or commander of a struggle of the people. I mean, our own contest. That was where you got that from. So I had to be seconded to Ogun State, another southwest state, because we didn't see enough
action,
protest, enough mass action. So I was seconded by the Campaign for Democracy to go there. So I got there. And because it was just the student, I got some student leaders from Ogun Poly and from UNAP. And thank God I had, although he had left, I had someone like Francis Abayomi, who was in Abeokuta, and at that time doing great work. You know, it was easy. So we combined, and Adeola Sueton was also on the ground.
Yeah.
But we didn't meet at that time. So I had met with Soyinka in Abeokuta to tell him my mission. That be seconded to come here and make sure that the state, particularly the town of MKO Abiola, moved. And so I started issuing statement like every 3 hours. And OGBC will read it until Babangida had to close down OGBC. It was that year that Babangida closed down OGBC. Yeah. And the Punch also was bad because I was issuing statement on 3 minutes, and I had executed guys. And before we knew it, Ogun State had moved. People like, what's her name? Taisho Larin's wife had joined. Yeah. But we had met in that Sheila Sholari had joined. And so there were protests. Soyinka would sit back at 22 Eladubu, which was his office. That's our a situation room. And then before you know it, it has become a massive action against the military. So every day we find Abeokuta at the environment, you say moving every day. So Babangida was like, wow. The day MKO came in, he could not find a way to where he was going, to Alake's palace. He could not, because people were out, even women were out in their, half naked. Because we had entered into the market, we had mobilized the market women, we had mobilized the teachers union, we had the NFC, the one where Mr. Jare Femi was the NFC president, had mobilized. So everybody had joined Campaign for Democracy. So we had started that year. So then Ogun had become like number one, everyday protest and everyday statement as they were releasing. So it was, that revalidation struggle was a major one. It was. When Abiola traveled, we were on the field. We were permanent on the field. In the evening, because some of our boys would make coffee and they would go and keep it somewhere. But before we wake up, we find that some operatives would have discovered and they would have taken it so that we wouldn't be able to use it to do protest the following day. And then when you go at night, they will be looking for where you were going to sleep. But one way or the other, we always deceive them. We always do the call. They won't know where we went. So these are the kind of risk and sacrifices made for the revalidation mandate of MKO Abiola. It was, and it became nationwide thing. The NANS itself issued a statement that MKO Abiola's mandate should be restored. And we all stood by that, because for us, it's an injustice against the nation. And therefore, and we had the instruction or the authority of mandate of NANS, National Association of Nigerian Students, to do all what we were doing. Even at that time, some of us were already living camp. We didn't even want to leave because I was expelled. Afterward, I was suspended. I was expelled. I came back suspended. Because Babangida felt that too much trouble. You can't you deal with this? For the moment, the school must close down. Nothing will happen. The day you expel me is the day the school will close down. Because we had very strong student leaders. All of them, they would have mobilized, and the students were with us. We're lucky. So, and even at some point, one of his guy from Jos, who came to
Lagos,
join the solidarity. That's what's his name? Our man Yakubu Arumasho was expelled with us. When I looked at the list, because people are going to compile list to say these are the people. So 3 times expulsion, but we came back and we had our way. The vice chancellor, who later became our friend, even in the civil society, was removed because we were very cohesive and clear, ideologically clear. And then the State House of Assembly said, LASU students were militant but reasonable. That was where it came from, under my leadership. Militant but reasonable. So we did everything collectively, even with my predecessor, Tony Olusoya, was always supportive and on the ground. So we were doing things, we were just having our way because we were clear, and we were very reasonable indeed, because we are trained ourselves in presentation. How do we present our argument? And one of the things, one of our lecturers then, who was a young lecturer, one of the young lecturer then, who was my lecturer, because I also was in political science, Abaka Momo, always called me inside, because both of us have started what we call a study group. So a monthly study group. So I was the chair. He made me the chair. He would just come and supervise occasionally. And one of the things that I said, we could make our argument without being offensive or abusive. We make our argument without, and so we learn how to make our argument. That was one of the things we also learned. So that by the time we got
not like what goes on Twitter.
Yes, when we got to the state panel against Odayo, because there was a day we blocked the entire highway. Otedola to come and see us, to come and meet us, you know. So when we got to state panel, they were convinced that these guys, have not done anything wrong. That there is no way you can punish these guys. So the military rule. And the last aspect, which is the restoration of democracy.
Transportation of Abacha.
Transportation into civilian.
Leading to restoration of democracy.
You know what he did? He went and hired what is called 2 million man march. By one young people. By one young person called Daniel Kanu, because it was just to counter the fact that Nance was also talking, so that if you see, can you see that young people are also he went to
Yes, I remember youth earnestly want Abacha. Or something like that.
Ask for Abacha. Youth earnestly asked for Abacha. And so when they had that protest and when they had that rally, it was a rally for adoption. It was an adoption rally. After that rally, we decided at our level, and in conjunction with UAD, United Action for Democracy.
For democracy,
yes, anchored essentially by Kimabot. Olisagbako by SAN today was the president. Was the convener. And so we decided, except we do a counter million march, Nigerians would think that this is true. So we decided that we will do a 5 million man march, which we had in Lagos. So people like Shure,
came all the way from to Ever Square.
Yes, so all the UAD cadres around. And on that day, Olisa was brutalized, but we had it. It was successful. Our friend in the media also helped. And Abacha saw that there was stiff opposition to his transmutation. So it was after that that we went underground. Some of us had left campus at that time. UAG could not meet openly again. We were being haunted there and here. So we started meeting underground. We were meeting somewhere in Ojuelegba. We would change the game back to Mushi. We would meet somewhere in Ojuelegba. You know, even on the day Abacha died, let me tell you, for those who were there, Chima was in that meeting. Ban of blessed memory is late now. In Ojuelegba, a certain guy who mentioned his name now was always hosting us. We were holding that meeting when we suddenly had people running around that Abacha had died. We couldn't believe it. Abacha died. It was from that meeting we rose to know and to join. You know, there was massive jubilation in town on that day. So we came out of that meeting about 7:30 or 8 o'clock and joined and saw what was happening. And then we started planning for, look, we should raise demand. We should heighten our force. We should strengthen our force and come out and make demands, because this is power on the floor.
Yeah.
That we have to do something. So Chima and Co put paper together to say, look, this is the way forward, which is Sovereign National Conference, Government of National Unity, and then a transform program that was in civilian regime. That was what we did. So that was what happened at that time. That was what happened in terms of the transmutation. Abacha died on that struggle, and we did not relent. We were meeting on that day that Abacha died. We were meeting and plotting what next to do against military rule when we suddenly heard that Abacha had died. And
let me hear from Mr. Ogundamisi.
Again, too, let me tell you, a month after, we were meeting in that same place. About a month after, it was July 7, when we suddenly heard that Abiola too had died. That's not the point I'm treating.
Mr. Ogundamisi.
Yeah. You know, before I go into that, I just want to acknowledge that one of the very important things that happened during that time that is not happening today is the involvement of women. We had women who were stronger than men in the movement back then. You had, like I mentioned, Azana Garba. There is Agnes Shaba. I don't know if Wale remembers Agnes Shaba. There is Comfort Idika. You know, there were a lot of women in the students' movement. They are not just women; they were leaders in their own right that could hold.
Amazon women.
You know, them Azana will mobilize in Zaria. We tell them we want Zaria, we want ABU Zaria locked down for the next 7 days, and they will lock down Zaria for 7 days. You know?
Well, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you? How much were you paying them? Because today, if you call that kind of movement, they will ask for mobilization.
You do. The only mobilization is your consciousness. That was how deep it was back then. You know, you would have students on their own just decide this is where they want to go, and they would go there. So then, apart from the students movement where you had a lot of women, you had an organization called Women in Nigeria. You know, they were not taking funds from DFID, Ford Foundation. These were women who taxed themselves, who were big, they were ideological grounded. You know, in those days, the moment we hear that you are collecting funds from abroad, you know, you are sanctioned because we see it as imperialists trying to determine the future of our country. So you don't collect money from anybody from abroad or internal, to come and influence, like what happened in Libya. Otherwise, what happened in Libya would have been what would have happened to us back in those days. Because what happened in Libya and Syria is people collecting money from international organizations, they become oppositions, they fuel the agenda of the imperialists, there is war, they sell the guns to the different parties and make their own money. So we were homegrown, the movement was homegrown. The resources were homegrown. People will use their fees, their student school fees, they would plant it into the movement, So things really changed. And then we had regular meeting with the NLC. The NLC was progressive. The NLC was in the tradition of Azan Sumono and co. These were liberation movements, basically. You had Pengasan, Nupeng. You had Nupeng. They had no choice but to conform to the yearnings of the Nigerian people. But things have changed. You asked a very important question. You said, what changed NANS? How come the NANS today is just busy adapting people? And I said to people, look, it's very simple. The Nigerian ruling elites are the smartest in the world. When I say smart, I use it in the negative connotation. So what they did, at least under the military rule, people were still able, even if despite the oppression, people were still able to survive economically to an extent. You look back at those days now and say, oh, wait a minute, those were good days. I would take a train from Lagos to my university in Jos, from Agege. I would take a night bus from Lagos to Jos, a night bus. There will be no fear, Salisu Adamu, no fear of kidnappers. You get what I'm saying? But when the civilians took over, the first strategy they used was that we have to pauperize the Nigerian people. We have to loot and pauperize the Nigerian people. So when you are hungry, when hunger sets in, the first survival instinct is how to survive, not how to liberate yourself. So the average people in the students' movement now are pauperized Nigerians. And they see the actions of the leaders, those who took over government, who are just looting for themselves. What they want to do, they want to improve themselves to become the new oppressors. So until you economically liberate yourself, empower yourself, educate yourself, make sure you establish, and that is why I keep saying to people, I really admire the style of Chief Ganefa Wahimi, who he made sure that he became economically liberated. He didn't need to collect a kobo from anybody in government. He never collected a kobo from any foreign donor who had their own agenda. He was quite straightforward and he was able to do things, for himself. So going back to the validation of June 12th, I think the credit should go to, this time around, to those leaders who were outside of the students' movement. I'm talking about the Beko Ramson Kuti, the Ganefa Wahimis, the Kokoris, Frank Kokoris, Pa Enaoro, a lot of our leaders from the southeastern part of Nigeria,
Abraham Adesoya,
Wale Soyinka, who were able to not just create a movement to validate June 12th, but they also internationalized the struggle. That was the first time.
That
was the first time the Nigerian pro-democracy movement took it beyond Nigeria. They established relationship with the Bola Tinubu's, the Bolaji Alukos in the diaspora, the Kayode Fayemi, Kayode Fayemi, my bittersweet friend Dele Momodu, who were all in the diaspora. Who were all in the diaspora. So there was an establishment of a connection, between the leaders at home, and these people internationalized the struggle. The Kayode Fayemi and co, they established Radio Kudirat. So we were able to counter the propaganda of NTA and Radio Nigeria with Radio Kudirat, So then these people became our ambassadors in the diaspora. They would protest every day at Nigerian embassies across the world. You know, they would put the Nigeria as a focal point. You now have the Commonwealth able to sanction the Abacha regime. You know, you now have the United Nations being able to talk more about Nigeria, because this time around we were able to internationalize the struggle. You know, and the downside of it is that people like us, you know, and let me include Wale, you know, to an extent, we're just slow. We were, you know, in Yoruba, our own is just let it. You know, we want to we need to destroy the system to build another one, you know. And that strategy, looking back now, you know, I think that strategy needs to change. A lot of people think I am fundamentally opposed to the so-called people talking about revolution today. I am not fundamentally approached to them. But where I disagree with them basically is that it is madness when you continue to use the same method that has failed time and time again. You know, you need to be creative. You need to create a cross-cultural movement where there's an agreement, you know, so that, for example, if you're killed, God forbid today, there's somebody who is ready to take over the movement and push it forward. And the young people, my point, because I come from in Yoruba, we say, I come from a very humble background. I should warn them, if you come from a humble background, make sure you really empower yourself, educate yourself. Don't be the one that they will lock outside when they are discussing the fate of the nation. You have to be on the table, you know, where they are discussing the fate of the nation, you know, so that you have the opportunity to climb into leadership position and do something for your community, not for yourself, for your community. You decide, today, I supported this government twice, you know, today I'm able to influence them that in my village in Ikare Akoko, that there's a road that needs to be fixed, you know, and I'm on there every day, you know, while I also oppose some of their policies. So you cannot be doing the gra without using your sixth sense. In South Africa, Julius Malema, he knew when he had to be extreme and when he had to mobilize to get into a lot of people into parliament. It was not just himself. If you go to the South African parliament, it's not Julius Malema, it's Julius Malema and hundreds of others. You know, so they're able to make more impact. But if Julius Malema had said that I am the hero of the struggle, it's only me, I am, without me there will be no Nigeria, it will be shut down, you know. So that is where I want the younger people to look at themselves as collectives. You know, if you don't look at yourself like collectives, you'll be doing the same madness that we did. Some of it were successful, but at the end of the day, where we are today is worse than where we're coming from.
I think this is where I want to begin to get to the crescendo and to wrap up. And I love where Egbo Kayode has mentioned this conversation too. What is the lesson for the new generation of young leaders? And what is the message that we need to begin to pass to this new generation, to my generation and the one coming behind us? What should we learn from you? You were the fighting generation. We are the benefiting generation. But what are the things that we must never forget? So let's say hashtag never forget.
Hello?
Mr. Okunniyi, let me start with you, sir. Let me start with you, Mr. Okunniyi.
What is important in any struggle for us to collectivize effort? It is very important. And it is very important to also do thorough review.
Yeah.
Each time we're at a T-junction. Collective struggle will always have result. And that was the result we had with the civilian administration that came out of our struggle. Yes, today, we may not have had the kind of democratic dispensation that we envisaged, but we have civil rule.
Yeah.
Because it is not El Dorado yet. What we have today is far from what we have envisaged as democratic dispensation, where Nigerians, majority of Nigerians will be able to enjoy the dividends of democracy. So therefore, it is important at all times for those of us or the younger generation to always collectivize effort. You cannot do it. Even now, for some of us who still want changes, we must pull together.
Yeah.
I saw in 2009 emergent, or what I call fresh breed political leaders who were coming out passionate about changing Nigeria, but could not come together as one block.
Yeah, 2019.
Yes, as one block to engage the reactionary forces, to re-engage the ruling class. They couldn't, and that became the Waterloo of that movement. So it means that they must look at what we did. Even then, we had differences and tendencies. I'm not sure myself and Kay, did not have tendential differences.
Yeah, we did.
With the DSM, the Segun Sango, the socialist movement, Adeola Soetan and co. They belong to
Labour militants. Yeah.
Yes, but we have to work together based on agreement. When we met in Abeokuta, he said, "How did you do it?" Adeola Soetan answered, "How?" I said, "This is it." And immediately, because he was quite used to that place, he took me to all other forces I needed to have known. And I met them one by one, and we collectivized the effort. And we made great impact than those who were even in Lagos. That when the protests are stopped in Lagos, the Ogun protest was still on. They were not ready to come until we moved to Lagos. So it's essential for us to unify, harmonize, and collectivize our effort, our action, our struggle. That is key. And that going forward, it is important too that we also do serious review, because it must be knowledge based. All what we did in that was knowledge based. It wasn't just rascality.
Yeah.
It was constructive radicalism, ideologically driven radicalism. You will know that you take a lot of critique and see loopholes here and there, and then see how do you apply what you have learned, and then you review again your last action. Where have you failed, and what do you need to do? And these are what we were doing there. It was a disciplined organization or movement, so to say. The people at Agbo Tikuyo, the DSM, they were also doing that.
Segun
Sango and the Soetan and Lanre and all of them, they were doing that. And to the extent that we all came together under CG, they saw the necessity. So our differences did not matter that way. We had ideological, small, minor. Though we believe in a left ideological post, but we had some tactical minor differences of how things can be achieved, what is needed to be done, and so on. And so we critique one another. So, but you must, when you find similarity in groups like that, there must be rallying. You must find a way to rally all of them so that they are just one. And which didn't happen in 2019 when you saw 15 presidential candidates of your people. Dayo. I laughed and laughed. 15, how can you have 15 presidential candidates and want to defeat Atiku or defeat Buhari?
And they couldn't even come together.
He's not too young to run.
You know
He's not too young to run.
Fantastic. I agree with that, but there must be unity. And you know that in the present political situation, money divines all. Money dictates. What we run in Nigeria is prependent politics. It's money-backed politics. Politics of the highest bidder. cash and carry democracy. You go and buy votes. It is about vote buying. It is not that you are a good man. If anybody today, if Soyinka go and stand somewhere he wants to work, let one non-entity, a criminal just coming out of jail, bring money, he will win.
Yeah. That
is the way our country has been structured, for good people and principled people not to be in power. So we must
It's your generation that got us there.
Oh, definitely. We have admitted the lack of unity at the end of the transition program. I admitted that the Waterloo or the albatross that created that was because we could not, I don't know what happened. At the time, we divided into two. Yeah. Some people said no to transition program, and some people went straight and joined. Yeah. And those who went to join, the first one 5 states, the first left 5 states for them. After they took it from them again. The reactionary bourgeois class, you cannot toy with them. They know what they are doing.
They are better organized.
Yes. So we must be very organized. You see, Che Guevara says, he said, without organization, idea will lose efficacy and it will fall into routine. You just continue to do it. You must, it's the key of every struggle is organization. That is my take. That's my own training. If there is no organization, then idea will lose efficacy and will become routine, mere routine. You just continue to regurgitate, and nothing will happen. Idea is supposed to impact on society and change it, because the whole essence of philosophy is for you to change the society. It's not for you to just philosophize for nothing, for some esotericism. No, the essence of it is what I apply it to society and make sure you change it. Therefore, so we cannot do heroism, egoism, individualism. It is only me. Because I was talking to certain people recently. I said we can't continue with individualism, except we are not sincere. You want to be the only leader of the organization. It's just organization built around your person. No connecting idea and ideology, no basic value, no minimum testament or covenant that brings you together. Then you will not be. You will just be doing fantasy and infatuation. You just die infatuation. They will celebrate you as hero, or you won't make any impact. When the ruling class is there, they will put you in detention, or they run you out to eliminate you. Read Mandela, read ANC struggle. Even within this ANC, there are tendencies. And they were able to marry all that, harmonize all that, manage, cultivate one another to form a very big block. You need in dialectics. It's force we buy for higher force now. So we must make our forces higher in a disciplined manner, sacrificial manner. Except to do that, this is what I do. I'm a theoretician of liberation struggle. If you don't do that, if there is no organization, forget it. You are going nowhere. Even if you are going to have internal mutiny, you must have a higher force that is respected by those inside to say, these people are formidable and inspiring enough. If we join them, we are safe. We are not going to be destroyed. But these people that we are seeing, they are cohesive. How can you have 15 presidential candidates? For what? It shows that you are just self-centered, self-serving. You are just going there for yourself. It's rubbish. It's badass. It should not be happening. So I'm bringing this reality to what exists now. If we must change this, the young people, emerging political leaders, leaders of conscience, must rally around a program, an agenda, an idea, and say this is just like that's the lesson to be learned. And then it doesn't matter who is chairman, doesn't matter, we always find road. And by the time we win, just like ANC, we can always find position for everybody. I mean, based on your capacity, intellectual, we can always. But if we say no, let me my team, it's me. You can't do any revolution. There won't be revolution anywhere. You will be isolated. You'll be taken out.
Exactly.
You will be taken out easily. The forces of state is humongous. I have studied it. I have studied it, and I know it. But it can be broken. And even now, The national forces in the country are weak, but there is no formidable organization to hit. And these are the issues. So therefore, we must come together. There can't be 15 presidential candidates, which will not go anywhere. There can't be me alone. It is me. It has to be me. I want to lead. I want to be seen. No, I don't mind to play background role, to do all the dirty work and organization. I don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Okunniyi.
So these are the issues here. These are the lessons to be learned by you and your generation. You have to learn it. I see so many of you, they are on social media, and by church they say springing up as a motivational speaker, right? And so on. And then you think that they can do something well. By the time you give them assignment, they run away. They run away these days.
Thank you, Mr. Okunniyi.
And you give them assignment, not you older, but so many. I've seen them all about. They form all kinds of NGO. I laugh at them. I look at them. I say, these ones, when they see fire, they will run. Because there is no organization to cover. The organization of the people it were the people who shielded us. We were shielded by the people. The students, when they come to arrest me, they would have shielded me. I would have gone. You can't know how I disappear. People can even die for us.
Absolutely.
We need unity and struggle. Amika Cabra, go and read it. Unity and struggle, and go and read Che Guevara.
Let me bring you, Mr. Ogundamisi.
Sorry. Hello.
Can
you hear me?
Mr. Ogundamisi, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here. Well,
yes. Before you comment, Mr. Ogundamisi, I wanted to wrap it up for us as well. I love the fantastic closing from Mr. Okunniyi. And as I alluded, that's why I'm having this conversation, because I feel that our generation has lost a sense of history. We don't understand the quality of what we enjoy today. You can go on Twitter and say anything that you want to say. But, this was not what happened. And this was the price that you guys paid for us to have the freedom of speech and after speech that we enjoy today. So please wrap it up for us, Mr. Ogundamisi.
Sorry, you have a lot of social media warriors today. Social media warriors. That's where they are. And you can't vote won't be on the social media. Let me allow you.
First, I think people should make up their mind. You either want to be an NGO merchant and practitioner, or you want to be a liberation struggle leader. You cannot. You cannot marry both of them. If you want to be collecting money from CIA organizations masquerading as donors, to be fomenting troubles that are not there, or to be putting fire on struggles that we can manage ourselves, right? To feed yourself and your family, then declare yourself as an NGO merchant. If you want to become a liberation struggle, a leader, do it the way they are doing it in Burkina Faso, in South Africa, in Ghana, in Mozambique, in Rwanda, with Paul Kagame when he came from the bush to become the president, and entrench yourself in the heart of the people, right? This clash is what is leading to a lot of NGO merchants mistaking themselves as liberation leaders. And that is why a lot of them concentrate their struggle on social media, because Ford Foundation, Omidia Foundation, DFID, and the countless hundreds of donors, they look at your social media followers. So if you have 1 million followers, you are the person that can change Nigeria. They pump money, hundreds of thousands of dollars into your organization. This person has 10 million followers. He can change Nigeria. Then when election comes, they become dazed. That you have 10 million followers on social media, Facebook and everything, and you have 10 votes. And you have 10 votes in your local government. They look at all the social media influencers from Okese Kweleze, Paul Mezoloku, my very good friend Shore, everything. All of them put together did not get 2% of the votes in Nigeria. 2% of the total votes. So we have to learn a lesson from that mistake, like Wale has highlighted, that we should not mix things up. It's either you can continue to use the pain of our people to feed yourself and your family and be living luxurious life and appear on channels and everything. When you mix it together, you become isolated. Each time you will agitate, you get to the front pages of newspaper, but the problem will still, as a matter of fact, you are actually contributing, you are assisting the ruling class because they know it. They've dealt with us with Ganifa, they've dealt with us with Beko, they've dealt with us with Femi. When Falano, our brother, went to contest in Ekiti State against a rogue, Fayose, Falano did not get 2% of the votes. Falano. Somebody with such credibility. When Chief Ganifa contested the election, he did not get 3% of the total votes. Tunji Braithwaite, Fela Anikulapo Kuti. So you can list them. It's an indication that we are not organized. First, we have to organize. Secondly, we have to agree that we cannot all come from the same ideological background. I am ideologically exposed to external agencies funding so-called pro-democracy group in Nigeria. And my reason is that I am exposed to know at what they did in Syria, what they did in Libya, what they did in Afghanistan, what they did in Iraq, and how they destroyed the countries, and the people they are trying to destabilize are still there. Meanwhile, millions of Syrians are dead. So I believe in change coming from within the country. And that the diaspora community who are indigenous to that country should have more say into how change is concluded in that country because they have a stake in that country more than agencies who are just there because they want to serve the interest. Okay, since Black Lives Matter, how many times have you seen Amnesty International protest in Nigeria? But our troops, our brave men and women are fighting Boko Haram. Every day they are monitoring what is Nigerian troop doing. But they are not monitoring what Donald Trump is doing. So in as much as we recognize the fact that there must be change in our country, let that change come from within. And let us be our brother's keeper. The problem we have in leadership, and it starts from our generation. Once you get up, you take the ladder with you. So we hardly produce cadres to take over from us. We are mirroring the ruling class. The ruling class, they don't produce leaders. They produce members of their family members. The same thing with our own. When you form an NGO, your board members are members of your family. You won't look at one comrade that is able to effect change in communities to get into the board. When you establish a political party, you are the chairman, you are the presidential candidate, you are the treasurer. Almost the same thing that the ruling elites are doing. So those are look, Nigerian masses are not stupid. When they recognize someone who is able to liberate them, you don't need to do much before they follow you. They will like you. The easiest thing, the problem we have now is that the easiest thing, social media has actually demobilized the struggle in Nigeria. Because the easiest thing is for you to post to say Buhari is mad, Atiku is crazy, like, retweet. Then you are a warrior. Then stupidly, the ruling class will come and pick you. Then you become a hero. If you had to work hard to go to the streets, now the influencers in our society are the Oluomos. MC Oluomo is more influential than a lot of people on social media because if MC Oluomo decide that Oshodi will not move in the next 7 days, Oshodi will not move. If you go to Ibadan, there's a guy in Ibadan now, who is embedded amongst the people. So until we take ownership of the streets, if we don't take ownership of the streets, when you want to contest in Alimosho, where I make my base, I have lesser influence than a guy that we call Gaddafi in Alimosho. I have to go to him and say, Gaddafi, our boys will know Aliria you. because I am not on the street. So you have to take ownership of the street. You have to embed yourself in the hearts of our people. But a lot of us, of your generation now, spend too much time on channels TV than on the streets. That is where the change needs to come, and we need to be transparent.
Yeah, let me
take ownership of the street.
Please. Let me add before. We are not condemning social media.
Yeah,
it's a means that is good. You can use it.
Yeah.
But for we don't. What we are saying is that don't be stuck, because it's on the ground, and we are not also promoting gangsterism. You say go and be like MC Odo. What we are just saying, get used to your people in your neighborhood, on your street, your practical life there, and mix with them, and they will forever defer to you. Yeah. We are not saying that, and we are not also oblivious of the fact that elections are still being rigged in Nigeria.
Exactly. In Nigeria, yeah.
So it's important for forces of progress to come together to be able to engage and stop that dialectically. If you want to stop rigging or falsification of result or manipulation of result or thuggery, you will come together, so you have a higher force. You even have more money. You pull more money together. If it is money for money, when you pull your money and the crowd also funds you together, you become credible. Even before people will run away for you, before they will run away for you before you even come. They say, this thing is overwhelming. No, this thing is just on the ground. At his campaign rally alone, not rented crowd, we found millions of. That's the kind of thing people who are ready to them. Things like done by how things done like that. You have to cultivate practical organization, not just Twitter. Twitter is good, dissemination of information. Yes, social media is good, but you don't become lazy and just be enjoying yourself there.
Don't become a slave to it.
Yes, even WhatsApp group that you form, you see people, they just want to gossip. When it comes to issues of debate, they just post and run away. Ask them to debate, tax their brain, nobody will respond again. I say, what kind of people are these? This group is set up for us to engage, to discuss. You just see them post one thing, run away, post gossip, information as if they are the new media people. But for us to interact and now debate on that, it's only a few people. Some will just keep quiet. So we must maximize our potential by uniting and making sure that we take over this road and clean everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unity, organization. That is one of the core things that we have learned here today. You can only have a truly democratic society by being united and organizing for progress, organizing for change. Thank you so much, Comrade Kayode Ogundamisi and the Che Olawale Okunniyi, veteran Che, for your time, for your insight, your knowledge. We're so grateful. And one of the things that all of us have learned today is the fact that the art of the struggle are the student. At the art of the change and everything that happened in June 12, of course, the leaders were at the top, but they could not have the confidence to hold the government hostage if the student and the youth were not able to hold the street hostage. And, thank you for the. Yes. And I hope that young Nigerians will learn that power is in our hands only if we are united and we are organized, and then we can deliver the Nigeria of our dreams. Thank you to all our faithful viewers who have stayed with us in the beginning of the conversation. In particular, the guys from NSU UK, I know that's Yemi, Bose Adebayo, Olufemi Adewale, Mr. Adebayo have been really contributing a lot. Rotimi Ade, Jola, James, Shidi Ebere, the people who are mentioned are the ones I'm reading. Olumide Idowu, King Debo, Akinnusi, Ramon, Moyoluwa, Elohim. I can't read everybody. I want to say a big thank you. I wish you good luck. Thank you so much
thank you
for today. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great one, everyone. God bless you, Mr. Okunniyi and Mr. Ogundamisi.
Thank you.